The hidden skill of a poor delivery girl stopped a cyber attack against a billionaire CEO, and what he did next changed her life forever. Before we start the story, tell us in the comments, what city are you watching from? And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Ivy Cooper walked in carrying a pizza box, just expecting to deliver the order, get a tip, and leave. But what she found was the opposite of her usual routine. A panicked office. Men and women in suits were running in every direction, phones ringing non-stop. The giant screens on the walls were flickering with red codes and error messages. The whole place looked like it was about to explode. In the middle of the chaos, a tall man with messy hair was shouting orders no one seemed able to follow. That was William Johnson, CEO of TechNexus, one of the biggest tech companies in the country. His hands were shaking as he yelled at the team, "We're losing everything. If we don't fix this in minutes, billions will disappear." Ivy paused, confused, held up the pizza box and said in her usual tone, "Your pizza's here." No one even turned their head. She walked up to William, who looked like he was on the edge of collapse, and said firmly, "Sir, your pizza has arrived." He looked at her, fury in his eyes, sweating, his face red with tension. "Can't you see what's happening? I'm about to lose my entire company, and you're here talking about pizza?" Ivy raised an eyebrow. "Okay, so what's going on here?" "It's a hacker attack," he yelled, slamming the table so hard a mug fell to the floor. "They're destroying everything, and my team can't stop it." Ivy took a deep breath and answered without hesitation, "I can help." The whole office burst into laughter. One of the programmers said sarcastically, "Sure, the pizza girl's gonna save TechNexus." "Great!" Another laughed out loud. "Hey, bring dessert too. Maybe that'll help." But Ivy didn't back down. She looked William in the eye and said firmly, "Give me a chance." William was desperate. His team was typing like crazy, but every screen showed more errors, more systems being breached, more corrupted files. He knew they were losing. His eyes, full of despair, stared at Ivy for a moment. Then, finally, he gave in. "If you can fix this, I'll pay you $200,000. Ivy smiled, set the pizza box on the table and said, "That would change my life, sir." She pulled up a chair, pushed a programmer aside, and started typing. The office that had just laughed at her now watched in tense silence. Ivy's fingers flew across the keyboard. Lines of code filled the screen, and she read them like it was a secret language only she understood. In seconds, she said, "I need another computer. Now." An employee ran over with a new one. Ivy started working on both at once, switching windows, copying lines, creating shortcuts, sweat dripping down her forehead. The room was stuffy, alarms were going off, and every second felt like an hour. "Close that window," she shouted to one of the programmers. "No, not that one. The other one. Hurry." The guy obeyed, but the screen turned red again. William almost fell to his knees. "We're done for. We're done. Shut up and let me work." Ivy snapped, not even looking up. Things got worse. Reports showed frozen bank accounts, private data being copied. The staff looked pale. Some were ready to give up. Suddenly, one screen went back to normal, then another. A wave of relief spread through the room. Someone whispered, "She's doing it." But the relief didn't last. A new wave of code hit the system, even more complex, more aggressive. It was like the hackers had been waiting for this moment. Ivy's eyes widened. "No, no, no!" The lights in the office flickered. The main server started beeping loudly. William dropped into his chair, covered his face, and whispered, "This is the end." But Ivy didn't quit. Her fingers moved even faster. The sound of the keyboard was like gunfire in a war. Sweat poured down, her eyes burned, but she kept going. She jumped between screens, built quick defenses, killed enemy processes. Every command was a desperate act to save not just the company, but her one shot at a better life. Time seemed to stop. Everyone watched in total silence, only the sound of keys and alarms filling the room. Then out of nowhere, one screen turned green. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, every screen turned green, signaling full recovery. Ivy stopped, out of breath, her hands shaking. "I did it." The office erupted in cheers and relieved shouts. Employees rushed toward her, some clapping, others simply stunned. William looked at her as if he had just witnessed a miracle. Slowly, he reached for his leather folder, opened it, and pulled out a check. $200,000. You saved billions. Ivy took the check, gave a tired smile, and said with her usual humor, "Mr. Johnson, This is definitely the most expensive tip in history. And without waiting for anything else, she adjusted her backpack and walked down the hallway. The entire office was silent, still in shock. William followed her with his eyes until she reached the door. Something told him he wouldn't be able to forget that sharp-tongued young woman with fingers faster than any machine. Little did Ivy know that night was far from over. She had just stepped into a game much bigger than she could have imagined. 3 weeks after that chaotic night at TechNexus, Ivy Cooper stood in front of a small corner shop in a quiet Portland neighborhood. The front needed paint and the windows were dusty, but her eyes sparkled like she was looking at a palace. She held the keys in her hand and smiled. This was the moment she had waited for her whole life. With part of the $200,000, Ivy completely renovated the space. She painted the walls a soft cream color, added rustic wooden tables, and hung pendant lights that gave the place a warm atmosphere. The glass counter displayed carefully decorated cakes, colorful cupcakes, and fruit pies that looked like they belonged in a magazine. The name of the cafe, written in golden letters on the front window, simply said, Sweet Ivy. On opening day, Ivy got up at 5 in the morning. She put on her white apron, embroidered with her name, tied her hair up in a messy bun, and started baking. The smell of vanilla chocolate and cinnamon filled the space. At exactly 8 o'clock, she opened the doors. The first customers arrived, shyly drawn in by the irresistible aroma. An elderly woman walked in, looked around, and said, What a lovely place, dear. Ivy gave a big smile. Thank you. May I offer you a slice of carrot cake? It's our specialty. The woman accepted. After one bite, her eyes widened. My goodness, this is amazing. I haven't had anything this good in years. Word spread quickly. Within days, Sweet Ivy became the neighborhood's new meeting spot. Moms brought their kids after school, young people studied with laptops while sipping coffee, and couples met at the tables by the window. The place was full of life, laughter, and constant movement. And Ivy loved every second of it. Of course, not everything was perfect. There was Mr. Thompson, a neighbor in his 60s, who showed up every day asking to pay later. Ivy, dear, I forgot my wallet at home today. Could you write it down and I'll pay you tomorrow? She'd cross her arms and answer with a playful smile. Mr. Thompson, you've been forgetting your wallet for 2 weeks straight. Either your memory's gone bad or you think I was born yesterday. He would laugh a little embarrassed and always manage to miraculously find the money in his pocket. Then there was the Japanese tourist who rushed in, pointed at a chocolate-filled cake, and said in broken English, I want bread. Big bread. Ivy blinked confused. Bread? You mean this? That's cake, not bread. The woman insisted, pointing firmly. Yes, yes, bread. Ivy sighed, cut a generous slice, and handed it over. The tourist took a bite, her eyes lit up, and she shouted with delight. Cake, not bread. Very good. Ivy shook her head, laughing to herself. Tourists, her days became a delightful routine. Ivy would wake up early, bake her sweets, and greet customers with her relaxed, witty attitude. She always had a joke ready, a smart comment, a smile that made people feel right at home. Until one sunny Thursday afternoon, everything changed. Ivy was behind the counter, arranging a tray of freshly baked cupcakes. The doorbell chimed. She looked up and said automatically, Welcome to Sweet Ivy. How can I? The words froze in her throat. Standing in the doorway wearing a flawless gray suit was William Johnson. He looked at her with the same expression of pleasant surprise. A slow smile formed on his face. Ivy felt her heart race. She never expected to see him again. She thought that wild night at TechNexus had been just a one-time thing, a story to tell her grandkids someday. But there he was, as elegant as ever, watching her with genuine curiosity. William took a few steps and looking around with approval. So this is what you did with the money. Ivy swallowed hard, trying to regain her composure. She wiped her hands on her apron and replied with the humor that never left her. I figured investing in sugar and flour was safer than going back to saving desperate billionaires. He laughed, a deep sound that echoed through the cafe. A few customers turned their heads, curious. I can't disagree. Looks like you found your place. Ivy crossed her arms, trying to appear casual, but inside she was nervous. So what brings the great CEO of TechNexus to my humble little cafe? Let me guess, more trouble with hackers? William shook his head, still smiling. Actually, I just wanted a coffee. and maybe a slice of that chocolate cake staring at me from the display. Ivy raised an eyebrow. Really? You left your fancy office, crossed the whole city, just to have cake? Maybe I also wanted to personally thank the woman who saved my company. She snorted, grabbed a plate, and cut a generous slice. You already thanked me. With $200,000, remember? William took the plate but didn't take his eyes off her. Money's not the same as real gratitude. The comment caught Ivy off guard. She looked away, pretending to straighten the napkins on the counter. She didn't know what to say to that. Luckily, the bell above the door rang again, and more customers came in, breaking the moment. William sat at a table in the corner near the window. He ate slowly, savoring each bite. Ivy watched him from the corner of her eye as she helped other customers. He seemed genuinely relaxed, something rare for someone running a billion-dollar company. When he finished, he stood up, left a $50 bill on the counter, and said, "It was delicious. I'll be back." Ivy picked up the bill and replied with sarcasm, "No need to leave a rich man's tip. The slice costs $5. William smiled to the side. "Think of it as compensation for all the stress I caused you that night." And he left, with Ivy standing behind the counter, holding the bill and feeling a strange mix of relief and disappointment. The following week, William showed up at Sweet Ivy 3 times. Always at the same time, around 3 in the afternoon, when things slowed down and Ivy could breathe between orders. He ordered black coffee and a different dessert each time, sat at the same corner table, and stayed for about half an hour, either working on his laptop or just watching the world go by. The first time, Ivy pretended it was a coincidence. The second time, she found it odd. By the third, she was annoyed. When he walked in on Thursday, she didn't even wait for him to reach the counter. She crossed her arms and said loudly, for everyone to hear, "Let me guess, black coffee and a slice of apple pie?" William smiled, taking off his sunglasses. "Actually, today I'd like to try that carrot cake." Ivy rolled her eyes and grabbed a plate. "You do know there's such a thing as delivery, right? You don't have to cross the whole city every time you crave sugar." He leaned on the counter, amused. "But then I'd miss out on hearing your sarcastic comments." "Oh, what an honor. I'm the billionaire's personal comedian." The nearby customers chuckled. The older lady who always sat by the window whispered to her friend, "That man comes here every day. I bet he's into her." The friend answered in a not-so-low voice, "Who wouldn't be? She's beautiful, funny, and makes desserts that are to die for." Ivy pretended not to hear, but her face felt hot. She set the slice in front of William with more force than necessary. $5. He handed her a 20. "Keep the change." "Again? Do you think I'm some kind of charity?" William laughed, picking up the plate. "No, I just think you're worth it." Ivy scoffed and threw the change on the counter in front of him. "I don't need handouts, Mr. Johnson. If you want to help, tell your rich friends about this cafe. That would actually be useful." He pocketed the change and walked to his usual table, still smiling. Ivy shook her head and went back to the kitchen. That man was really starting to get on her nerves. The following days followed the same pattern. William showed up, ordered something, made a witty remark, and Ivy replied with sharp sarcasm. The customers started looking forward to their exchanges like it was part of the cafe's entertainment. Some even came in early just to make sure they'd be there when he arrived. One Friday afternoon, while William was enjoying a chocolate cupcake, he said casually, "You know, I can't stop thinking about that night." Ivy was cleaning the counter and paused, looking at him. "What night?" "The night you saved my company. That was impressive." She shrugged and kept cleaning. "I just did what needed to be done. Nothing special." "Maybe to you, but to me, it meant everything. You have no idea how much it meant." Ivy felt a discomfort rise in her chest. She didn't like compliments, especially from him. She quickly changed the subject. "So, how are things at TechNexus? Everything under control?" William hesitated, just for a second, but enough for Ivy to notice. "Kind of," she frowned. "Kind of? What does that mean?" He sighed and set his fork down. "It means maybe the problems didn't really go away." Ivy stopped cleaning and looked straight at him. "Are you telling me the hackers are back?" William didn't answer right away. He looked around, making sure no one was listening. Then he lowered his voice. "Not exactly, but we've been getting threats. Coded messages, small attacks that my team can handle, but I don't know. Something feels off. Ivy felt a chill go down her spine. She didn't like this. Not one bit. And what do you want me to do? I'm out of that world, remember? I bake cakes now. I know, and I respect that. But you're the only person who truly understood their code that night. My team is good, but you're different. You think like they do. Ivy crossed her arms, anger building inside her. No, I'm not going back to that. It's over. I have a life now, a normal life, and I'm not throwing it all away because you're scared. William looked at her seriously. I understand. I'm sorry I asked. He stood up, took out his wallet, and left money on the table. Before leaving, he turned back and said, "But if you change your mind, you know where to find me." And he walked out, leaving Ivy alone with her thoughts. That night, Sweet Ivy was packed. Fridays were always the busiest. Couples, groups of friends, families with kids. Ivy barely had a moment to breathe. She was baking the last batch of brownies when, all of a sudden, the lights went out. Silence fell instantly. Then came the confused whispers. What happened? Did the power go out? Ivy walked out of the kitchen with her phone flashlight, trying to calm everyone. It's okay, folks. Probably just a power issue. I'll be right back. But when she looked through the front window, she froze. The other stores nearby all had their lights on. Only Sweet Ivy was in the dark. And even stranger, across the street, a man in a dark suit stood watching the cafe. When he noticed Ivy had seen him, he turned and walked away quickly. Ivy's heart started to race. This was no coincidence. She ran to the breaker box in the back of the cafe. All the switches were turned off, manually. Someone had done this on purpose. She came back to the main area, trying to stay calm, but inside, panic was taking over. She flipped the breakers, and the lights came back on. The customers clapped, relieved. Ivy forced a smile. All good now, folks. Just a little technical hiccup. But she knew the truth. This was a warning, and it had something to do with William. It had to. After the last customer left, Ivy locked the door and sat down in one of the chairs, still shaking. She picked up her phone and stared at it for a long time. She fought the urge to call William, to ask for help, to admit that maybe he was right. But before she could decide, the phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You shouldn't have gotten involved. Stay away, or next time will be worse. Ivy dropped the phone as if it had burned her. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook. She looked around the cafe, the place she had built with so much effort, the dream that had finally come true. And now, someone was threatening it all. She picked up the phone again, this time with determination. She found the business card William had left on his first visit, typed in the number, and called. He answered on the second ring. Ivy? She took a deep breath. We need to talk. Now. William arrived at Sweet Ivy 20 minutes later. Ivy was sitting at one of the tables, still trembling, phone in hand. He came in quickly, his sharp suit replaced by a casual shirt and jeans. It was the first time she had seen him look normal. What happened? He asked, sitting across from her. Ivy showed him the message. William read it, and his expression turned serious. When did this come in? Half an hour ago. Right after the cafe lights went out. Well, not by themselves. Someone turned off the breakers, and there was a man in a suit watching from across the street. William ran a hand through his hair, clearly worried. They know you helped me. Now you're a target, too. Ivy let out a bitter laugh. Great, just what I needed. Customers asking for cake and hackers trying to scare me. My life's a circus. William didn't laugh. He looked at her with such intensity, it made her uncomfortable. Ivy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to drag you into this. She sighed and rubbed her face with both hands. Too late. They already found me. So what do you want me to do? I need you to investigate. Trust your instincts. Find out who's behind this. Ivy looked him straight in the eye. My instincts are a little rusty. It's been weeks since I used my hands for anything other than mixing cake batter, not for writing code. You don't lose that. It's like riding a bike. She scoffed. Bikes don't threaten you over text messages. Despite the tension, William gave a small smile. True. Ivy stayed quiet for a moment thinking. Then finally she let out a deep sigh. All right, I'll help, but on one condition. What's that? You stop showing up here every day with that lost puppy face. You're scaring off my regular customers. William chuckled, relieved. Deal. In the days that followed, Ivy dove back into the world she had tried to leave behind. During the day, she served customers with her usual smile, poured coffee, sliced cake. But at night, after locking up the cafe, she'd sit in her makeshift office in the back, surrounded by 2 laptops, analyzing code, tracing IP addresses, looking for clues. William sent her daily reports about the tech failures at TechNexus. Small attacks, always at different times, like someone was testing the defenses. Ivy recognized the pattern. It was the same group of hackers, but now they were more organized, more careful. And that scared her. One afternoon, William showed up at the cafe again. Ivy was helping an older lady who couldn't decide between lemon pie and cheesecake. When the customer finally chose, Ivy turned, and there he was, standing near the counter with that same lost expression he always had when he walked in. "I thought we agreed you wouldn't come here anymore," she said, arms crossed. "I know, but I needed to talk to you, in person." Ivy rolled her eyes. "Let me guess, another attack?" "No, I just wanted to see you." She blinked, surprised. William looked genuinely awkward. "Okay, that was weird. Go sit down. I'll bring you a coffee before you say anything else silly." He did as told, taking a seat at the corner table. Ivy made 2 coffees and joined him, something she rarely did. The customers noticed and began whispering among themselves. William stirred his coffee, deep in thought. "You know, I spent so much time focused on work that I forgot what it's like just to talk to someone." Ivy raised an eyebrow. "You're saying the big-shot billionaire CEO is lonely? What a shock." He smiled, but it was a sad smile. "More than you think." Ivy felt a stab of empathy. She sighed. "Look, I get it. I spent years alone too, hiding behind a screen, being someone no one really knew. It's easy to lose yourself in that." William looked her in the eyes. "Don't you miss it? That world?" Ivy paused for a moment. "Sometimes. But you know what I miss more? Being taken seriously. People look at me and see a pizza delivery girl who got lucky. They don't see what I'm really capable of." "I do," William said softly. Before Ivy could reply, William's phone rang nonstop. He checked the screen, and his face went pale. "No, not now." "What is it?" "They're attacking again. Right now, live." Ivy stood up fast. "Where's your laptop?" "In the car." "Go get it. Now." William ran out. Ivy rushed to the back, grabbed her 2 laptops, and came back, quickly setting up a makeshift station on one of the tables. The customers watched, puzzled. Mr. Thompson, who was eating a slice of pie, asked, "Ivy, what's going on?" "Just a little technical issue, Mr. Thompson. Nothing to worry about." William returned, out of breath, holding the laptop. Ivy connected everything quickly, her fingers flying across the keyboards. The screen showed red code lines breaching TechNexus's systems. "They're coming in through the secondary firewall," she murmured. "Smart." The customers gathered, forming a half circle around the table. They watched, fascinated, as Ivy switched between the 3 computers, typing complex commands, setting up barriers, isolating the threats. "Is this a movie?" a little kid asked. "Better than a movie, sweetie." His mom replied. Ivy barely heard them. She was fully focused. William stood beside her, watching closely but not interfering. He knew she was in charge. 10 minutes later, the screens went back to normal. Ivy dropped into the chair, exhausted. The cafe burst into applause. She looked around, confused, then laughed, shaking her head. "Folks, this isn't a show. Go back to your cake." William placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're amazing." Ivy gave a tired smile. "I know." But the victory didn't last long. A notification popped up on one of her screens. A message. Ivy opened it, and her blood ran cold. "You shouldn't have come back." She showed it to William. He read it and closed his eyes, frustrated. "They know you're helping me." Ivy shut down the computers, still processing. "So now it's personal." William looked at her, worried. "Maybe you should stop. Let my team handle this." Ivy let out a dry laugh. "Too late, William. They've already marked me. And I'm not the kind of person who backs down just because someone threatens me." He gave a slight smile. "I know. That's why I asked for your help." Ivy packed up the laptops, deep in thought. She knew things had just gotten a lot more complicated and dangerous. The news spread too fast. The next day, the Portland Tribune ran a headline, "Pizza Delivery Girl or Undercover Hacker? TechNexus CEO Brings in Mysterious Help." The photo showed the front of Sweet Ivy and mentioned her by name. She found out when a regular customer walked in holding the paper and asked, her voice full of curiosity, "Ivy, is it true you're some kind of computer spy?" Ivy forced a smile. "I just fix a few things now and then. Nothing major." But it was major, and she knew it. From that day on, everything changed. New customers showed up, but not for cake. They wanted photos, asked invasive questions, some even hinted she might be involved in something illegal. The warm, welcoming vibe of the cafe was replaced by a cloud of suspicion and morbid curiosity. And the worst was still to come. William called that afternoon, his voice tense. "Ivy, we need to talk." "About what? About how you turned my private life into a front-page story? I wasn't the one who leaked it. But my team, they're starting to question you." Ivy felt her stomach drop. "Question me? About what?" William hesitated. "They think maybe you're behind the attacks, that you saved the company the first time just to gain our trust, and now you're slowly tearing us down." The silence that followed was heavy. Ivy gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Do you believe that?" she asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, Ivy. Everything just seems too convenient. You showed up at the exact right time, fixed everything on your own, and now the attacks come back just when you're helping us again." Ivy hung up on him. She threw the phone on the counter and covered her face with both hands. The tears came fast, tears of anger and frustration. She had helped that man, twice, and now he was treating her like a criminal. In the days that followed, Ivy completely cut ties with William and TechNexus. She focused only on the cafe, trying to bring some normalcy back. But normal felt like a distant dream. Her regulars still came, but now they looked at her with suspicion. Conversations would stop when she got close. Mr. Thompson no longer asked to put things on his tab. He paid in cash and left quickly. Ivy pretended everything was fine, but inside she was falling apart. On a rainy Wednesday, a man she had never seen before walked into the cafe. He wore a gray overcoat and a hat pulled low over his face. He sat at a corner table, ordered only a black coffee, and stayed there, motionless, for nearly an hour. Ivy tried to ignore him, but something about him made her uneasy. When he finally got up to leave, he left something on the table, a small folded piece of paper. She waited until he was gone, then walked over and picked it up. Her hands shook as she opened it. The handwritten message made her blood run cold. "You're next." Ivy looked toward the door, but the man had already vanished into the rain. Her heart was pounding. She slipped the note into her pocket, trying to breathe, trying to think. But fear was closing in. The rest of the day felt like it moved in slow motion. Ivy served customers on autopilot, forcing smiles, making mechanical small talk. Inside, she was terrified. Late in the afternoon, as the sun began to set, William showed up at the door. Ivy saw him through the window, and the anger came rushing back. He walked in, wet from the rain, wearing a guilty expression. "Ivy, get out," she said without looking at him. "Please, just listen. I was wrong. I never should have doubted you." Ivy finally looked at him, her eyes burning with restrained fury. "You think an apology fixes this? You accused me of being a criminal, William. You, of all people, knew what I risked to help you. And still, you doubted me. I know, and I'm sorry. My team was pressuring me, the media was speculating, and I let doubt take over. That was cowardly of me." Ivy crossed her arms. "You're right about one thing. It was cowardly." William took a step closer. "Let me fix this. No, now get out of my cafe before I throw a cake in your face. And trust me, it won't be strawberry." Despite the moment, William almost smiled. Almost. He knew he had messed everything up. He gave a slow nod and left, leaving Ivy alone with her pain. The cafe slowly emptied. Ivy began to clean up, putting the chairs away and turning off the machines. The last customer left at 8 in the evening. She walked to the door to lock it, but stopped when she saw the reflection in the window. Her heart stopped. Spray-painted in big red letters were the words, "You will pay." And then she heard it, the sound of glass shattering. The front window of Sweet Ivy exploded into 1,000 pieces. Ivy screamed, dropped to the floor, and covered her head as shards flew everywhere. When the noise stopped, she slowly got up, shaking. The window was completely destroyed. Wind and rain were pouring in. And in the middle of the glass there was a large rock with a piece of paper tied to it. Ivy picked up the paper with trembling hands and read, "This is your final warning." She didn't hesitate. She grabbed her phone and dialed William's number, her fingers barely able to press the buttons. He picked up on the first ring. "Ivy?" "They broke my window," she said, her voice trembling. "William, I'm scared." "Stay there. Don't go anywhere. I'm on my way." Ivy sat down on the floor, in the middle of the broken glass, hugging her knees. The tears were flowing now. Everything she had worked so hard for was being destroyed, and she didn't know what to do anymore. 15 minutes later, William came running through the shattered door. He saw Ivy on the floor and immediately knelt beside her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Just scared." William pulled her into a tight hug. Ivy didn't resist. She let herself be wrapped in his arms, feeling for the first time in days that she wasn't completely alone. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you," he whispered. "I promise." Ivy pulled back slightly, wiping her tears. "You can't promise that. They're stronger than we thought." William looked her in the eyes. "Then we'll get stronger too." He helped Ivy to her feet, holding her hands firmly. She was still shaking, but trying to regain her composure. "You can't stay here tonight," he said, looking around at the wrecked cafe. "It's not safe." Ivy wiped her face, trying to appear strong. "And where do you suggest I go? A hotel? They already know where I live, where I work. They'll find me anywhere." William took a deep breath. "Come with me. Stay at my penthouse tonight. You'll be safe there. The building has 24-hour security, cameras on every floor, a top-of-the-line alarm system." Ivy raised an eyebrow, trying to hide her fear with humor. "Oh, so now I'm your personal guest? How convenient." "Ivy, please. I just want to make sure you're okay." She sighed, looking at the broken window, the glass everywhere, her dream shattered on the floor. "All right, but just for tonight." 40 minutes later, Ivy was in the passenger seat of William's shiny black BMW, heading toward the most expensive neighborhood in Portland. She watched the buildings get taller and more luxurious, feeling completely out of place. When they arrived at the penthouse, Ivy stopped at the door, speechless. The apartment was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city all lit up. Modern furniture, a kitchen that looked straight out of a design magazine, and technology everywhere. The lights turned on by themselves when they walked in. An automated voice said, "Welcome back, Mr. Johnson." Ivy's eyes widened. "Seriously? Your house talks?" William smiled as he took off his coat. "It's the smart system. It controls lights, temperature, security." Ivy walked through the living room, touching things carefully, as if they might explode at any moment. "You've got a fridge that's probably smarter than me." "That's depressing." She opened the fridge and found only water, green juice, and something that looked like fancy frozen food from a restaurant. "William, you do know real food exists, right? Like eggs, milk, butter?" He shrugged, a little embarrassed. "I usually eat out." "Of course you do. Rich people don't cook. Must be an unwritten law." Ivy kept exploring. She went to the bathroom and came back impressed. "You've got a bathtub with jets, LED lights, and surround sound. Meanwhile, in my apartment, my shower barely gets warm." William laughed, finally relaxing for the first time that night. "If you want to use it, go ahead. Tempting. But first, let's see what you got from your company." William turned serious again. He went to the office and returned with a folder full of documents and a flash drive. "I was able to access some internal files, financial transaction records from the last 6 months." Ivy took the papers and sat on the couch, spreading everything out on the coffee table. William turned on the laptop and plugged in the flash drive. Ivy began to read, line by line, looking for anything out of the ordinary. 2 hours went by in silence. Ivy jotted down numbers, cross-checked information, while William watched, impressed by her ability to process so much data. Suddenly, Ivy stopped. Her face went pale. "William, look at this." She pointed to a series of transactions. Bank transfers from TechNexus to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Small amounts, almost unnoticeable, but constant, and all authorized by someone inside the company. William stepped closer, reading over her shoulder. "This can't be." Ivy clicked to another tab, tracing the source of the approvals. The name that popped up left them frozen. Gregory Foster, Vice President of Operations at TechNexus. William's right-hand man for years. "Greg's funding the attacks," Ivy whispered. "He's paying the hackers to bring your company down." William sank into the couch, stunned. "No, Greg's my friend. He's been with me from the beginning." Friend or not, the numbers don't lie. Ivy kept digging, uncovering more details. The transfers began exactly 1 month before the first attack, and they increased right after she saved the company. "He wants to destroy you slowly," Ivy said. "Not all at once. He wants it to look like the company is vulnerable, like you can't protect it. Probably so he can take over later. William ran a hand through his hair, devastated. How did I not see this before? Ivy placed a hand on his shoulder. Because you trusted him, and that's not your fault. Her stomach growled loudly, breaking the tense moment. She gave an embarrassed laugh. Sorry, I haven't eaten since lunch. William stood up. I'll order something. No, since your kitchen looks like it's from a sci-fi movie, I'll use it. Do you have flour, sugar, eggs? I don't think so. Ivy rolled her eyes. Of course not. That's fine. Improvising is my specialty. She rummaged through the cabinets and found almond flour, honey, dark chocolate, and some fruit. In 20 minutes, she was baking something that looked like a cross between a brownie and a cake. William leaned against the counter, completely lost, watching her. Do you always cook when you're nervous? Always. It's cheap therapy. The smell of chocolate filled the apartment. Ivy pulled the cake from the oven, cut 2 slices, and served. William took a bite and widened his eyes. This is amazing. I know. I'm good at what I do. They ate in silence, the mood slightly lighter, but the peace didn't last long. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. Ivy dropped her fork. Please tell me that's just a blown fuse. William was already standing, tense. No, the system is redundant. It doesn't fail like this. The house's automated voice started stuttering. System compromised. System compromised. The doors locked with a mechanical click. The windows sealed shut. Ivy ran to the front door and tried to open it. Locked. William, we're trapped. He grabbed his phone, but the screen read no signal. Ivy picked up the laptop, but the internet was down. They've hacked into the apartment system, she said, her voice shaking. We're cornered. The lights came back on, but now they flashed red. The automated voice repeated in a loop. Intruder detected. Intruder detected. Ivy looked at William, fear written all over her face. They know we found out, and now they want us stuck in here. Ivy ran to the laptop she'd left on the coffee table. The screen was frozen, showing only lines of red code running wildly. She hit keys, tried to reboot, but nothing responded. They've taken full control, she said tensely. Locked everything remotely. William was trying to force the front door open, yanking the handle hard, but it was no use. The security system had sealed every entrance and exit. There's got to be a manual way to open this, he muttered, frustrated. In a smart house? I doubt it. You let technology control everything. Congratulations, now it turned against you. The red lights kept flashing, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The automated voice changed, now distorted and unsettling. System compromised. Exit blocked. System compromised. Exit blocked. Ivy felt panic rising, but forced herself to breathe deeply. Panicking wouldn't help. She needed to think. Where's the main server for the house? She asked. William pointed to a hallway. In the office. But that door's locked too. Of course it is. Nothing can ever be simple. Ivy ran to the office and tried the door. Locked. She kicked it hard, but only hurt her foot. Ow! Who installs steel doors at home? William appeared beside her. Let me try. He stepped back and threw his shoulder against the door. It didn't budge. He groaned in pain. Ivy looked at him with sarcasm. Great! Now you've messed up your shoulder and we're still stuck. Excellent strategy. Do you have a better idea? Ivy looked around, thinking fast. Her eyes landed on the kitchen. Maybe. Stay here. She went back to the kitchen and started digging through the drawers. She found a heavy steak knife and returned to the office. Are you going to stab the door? William asked, incredulous. No, genius. I'm going to try to force the lock. She stuck the tip of the knife between the door and the frame, trying to reach the latch. It took 5 minutes of effort, but finally they heard a click. The door opened. Ha! And you doubted me, Ivy said, triumphant. The office was completely dark. Ivy used her phone flashlight to guide her way to the server. It was a shiny black tower, its lights blinking in a frantic pattern. This thing looks like a possessed Christmas tree, she said. William stood behind her, watching. What are you going to do? I'm going to try to shut the system down manually. If I can reset it, we might regain control. She started unplugging cables, looking for the reset button. William came closer, trying to help. Is there anything I can do? Yes, stay away from the expensive keyboard. You've already proven you don't know anything about tech. I'm the CEO of a tech company. And yet you don't know the difference between an Ethernet cable and a power cord. It's honestly impressive. William crossed his arms, clearly offended, but let Ivy work. She connected her own laptop directly to the server, bypassing the main system. Her fingers flew over the keys, creating shortcuts, accessing code layers the attack hadn't reached yet. "They're good," she murmured. "Very good." But they left a gap. What kind of gap? The kind arrogant people always leave. They thought I wouldn't be able to get into the core. But they forgot, I think, just like they do. She typed a few more commands, and suddenly the blinking lights stopped. The automated voice went silent. The apartment fell into a tense, complete silence. Then the regular lights came back on, soft and steady. William exhaled deeply. "You did it." Ivy collapsed into the office chair, exhausted. "Barely. They almost got me." "What were they after?" Ivy looked at the screen, reading the messages the hackers had left in the system. "To scare us. To drive us apart. There's a message here that says, 'He'll betray you again. Don't trust him.'" William knelt beside the chair. "Ivy, I'll never doubt you again. You have my word." She looked at him, searching his eyes for sincerity, and she found it. "You're terrible at showing trust, you know that?" "I know, but I'm trying to get better." Ivy gave a tired smile. "At least you admit it." They walked back to the main room. Ivy tested the front door. It opened normally now. She unlocked it and sighed in relief as the fresh hallway air hit her face. "We could just leave and never come back," she suggested. William was about to answer when his phone rang. He looked at the screen and answered quickly. "Hello? Yes, this is William Johnson." Ivy watched as his expression shifted from curiosity to shock. "Are you sure? When did this happen? I understand. Thank you for letting me know." He hung up and looked at Ivy, his face pale. "That was the private investigator I hired 2 weeks ago. He found something." "About Gregory?" "No, about Daniel Harrington." Ivy frowned. "Who's that?" "One of TechNexus's senior board members. He resigned 3 months ago out of the blue. No explanation, just said he wanted to retire early and vanished." "And what did the investigator find?" William sat on the couch trying to process it all. That Daniel was transferring company funds to offshore accounts. Same pattern as Gregory. They were working together, but when Daniel realized the plan might be uncovered, he ran, resigned, and disappeared. Ivy sat beside him. "So it's not just Gregory. This is a bigger conspiracy." "Looks like it, and there's more." The investigator tried to track Daniel. He found flight records to Mexico from 3 months ago. After that, nothing. No digital trail, no credit card use, nothing. He really disappeared. William nodded, worried. Either he's hiding very well, or someone made him disappear. Ivy felt a chill run up her spine. "You think he's dead?" "I don't know. But if he is, it means we're dealing with people much more dangerous than I thought." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it all settling over them. Ivy looked at William and saw the exhaustion and fear on his face. She placed her hand over his. "We'll find out who's behind this. Together." William turned his hand and laced his fingers with hers. "You're the only person I can trust right now." Ivy gave him a faint smile. "That's kind of sad, considering you met me delivering pizza." He laughed, a genuine sound that cut through the tension. "That was the best pizza delivery of my life." "Bet you say that to all the delivery girls. Only the ones who save my company and break into my kitchen to bake a cake in the middle of a crisis." Ivy laughed too, feeling something warm and comforting rise in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe it was hope, or maybe something more. William looked at her differently now, not like the hacker who saved him or the witty cafe owner, but like someone he truly cared about. "Ivy?" "No," she interrupted, raising her hand. "Whatever you're about to say, don't. We're tired, scared, and we just barely survived your crazy tech apartment. Not the best moment for heart-to-hearts." William smiled. "Fair enough." Ivy stood up and stretched. "Now, do you have a guest room in this floating mansion? Because I need sleep before dealing with more crazy hackers." "Second room on the left." "Perfect." "And William?" "Yes? Thanks for not leaving me alone today." He held her gaze for a long moment. "Always." Ivy woke up to the smell of fresh coffee. She opened her eyes slowly, a little disoriented, until she remembered where she was. William's guest room was bigger than her entire living room. The bed was so soft she struggled to get out of it. "That's still in the same clothes as yesterday?" She walked into the kitchen. William was there, holding a cup of coffee, staring out the window at the city below. He turned when he heard her. "Morning. Did you sleep okay?" Ivy yawned and stretched. "Better than I thought, considering we almost became prisoners yesterday." William poured her some coffee. "I made pancakes too. They're on the table." Ivy looked at the plate and widened her eyes. "You made pancakes? Really?" "I tried, not sure how good they are." She cut a piece, took a bite, and made a face. "It's interesting. Tastes like rubber with honey." William laughed, a little embarrassed. "Sorry, I'm not great at this." "Clearly, but it was a sweet gesture. I'll give you 5 out of 10 for the effort." They ate in a quiet, easy silence. Ivy noticed William was watching her more than he was eating. She raised an eyebrow. "What? Do I have something on my face?" "No, I was just thinking." "Thinking about what?" William hesitated. "About how you showed up out of nowhere and turned everything upside down." Ivy took a sip of coffee, trying to hide her smile. "I tend to have that effect on people. It's a gift. It's more than that. You make me want to be better." Ivy froze with the cup halfway to her lips, surprised by his honesty. She didn't know what to say, so she did what she always did, used humor as a shield. "Wow, that was a big statement. Did you rehearse that, or was it off the cuff?" William chuckled and shook his head. "Forget it. I said too much." "No, don't forget it. That was sweet. A little cheesy, but sweet." They looked at each other for a long moment. Ivy felt something shift inside her. Something she'd been trying to ignore for days. But before anything could happen, she stood up quickly. "Well, enough morning romance. We've got work to do. We need to find out where Daniel Harrington is hiding." William stood up too, slipping back into business mode. "The investigator sent a few addresses he used to visit. We can start there." They spent the morning digging for information. Ivy dove into databases, tracked old transactions, searched for any digital trail Daniel might have left. William made phone calls, spoke to old contacts, tried to piece together a puzzle that made no sense. Around noon, Ivy found something. "William, look at this." He came over and looked over her shoulder. "What did you find?" "Daniel made a transfer 2 weeks ago. Just $1,000, but enough to leave a trail. It went to a bank account in Seattle." "He's in Seattle?" "Or was. I'm gonna dig deeper." Ivy typed fast, diving into systems she definitely wasn't supposed to be in. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, breaking through firewalls, dodging security protocols. William watched, amazed. "How did you learn to do all this?" "Curiosity and a lot of free time when I was a teenager. It's not exactly legal, but it works." Suddenly, the screen went black. Ivy frowned. "What?" Lines of code began appearing, way too fast to be normal. Ivy tried to close the program, but it was frozen. No. "What's happening?" William asked, alarmed. "I triggered a trap. They traced me when I hacked into the bank system." A window popped up on the screen, and what Ivy saw made her freeze. It was her full file. Full name, address, social security number, credit history, even old photos. Everything laid out. "They have everything on me," she whispered. William read the screen, horrified. "How did they get this so fast?" "Because they're good. Better than I thought." A new message appeared on the screen, letter by letter, like someone was typing in real time. "Hello, Ivy, or should I call you Ghost Key?" Ivy's blood ran cold. No one knew that nickname. No one was supposed to know. The message continued. "You're smart, but not as smart as you think. We have everything on you now. Your address, your friends, your family, your mother in Chicago doing okay?" Tears welled up in Ivy's eyes, but she held them back. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. "They're threatening me through my mom," she said, her voice shaking. William placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're not going to let anything happen to her. I promise." Ivy closed her eyes, trying to steady herself. "You can't promise that. They have all my data. They know where I live, where my mother lives. They know everything." Ivy's phone rang. She looked at the screen. Unknown number. With trembling hands, she answered. "Hello?" A distorted voice, clearly altered by software, replied. "Ivy Cooper, you should have stayed in your little cafe baking cupcakes. But no, you wanted to play hero. Who are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is that now you're our target too. And we don't give up." Ivy took a deep breath, trying to sound braver than she felt. "I'll find out who you are, and when I do, I'll take you down." The voice laughed. Cold, robotic. "Good luck with that. But until then, think carefully about what you love. Your cafe was just the beginning. Your mother? Your friends? Everything can disappear with a single click. The call ended. Ivy dropped the phone like it was burning her. She was shaking from head to toe. William pulled her into a firm hug. Breathe. Breathe with me. Ivy clung to him, finally letting the tears fall. All the fear, all the anger, everything she'd been holding in for days came pouring out at once. I can't do this, William. I can't put my mother in danger. I just can't. You're not alone, he cut in. We'll get through this together. She pulled away, wiping her face. How? They hold all the cards. They know everything about me. Her phone beeped. A text message. Ivy looked at it and her heart nearly stopped. If you don't stop, we'll destroy everything you love. Attached was a photo. The front of her mother's house in Chicago. Taken just hours earlier, based on the timestamp. Ivy showed it to William, her hands shaking so badly he had to hold the phone to read it. They're already there, she said, her voice cracking. They've already found my mom. Ivy called her mother immediately, hands trembling so much she nearly dropped the phone. Every ring felt like forever. Finally, a familiar voice answered. Hello? Mom? Ivy almost screamed. Are you okay? Of course I'm okay, sweetheart. Why are you asking? Ivy felt tears of relief streaming down her face. You haven't seen anything strange? No one lurking around the house? No, everything's normal. You're scaring me. What's going on? Ivy took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Nothing, Mom. Just please stay inside today, okay? And lock all the doors and windows. Ivy Marie Cooper, you tell me what's going on right now. I'll explain later. Please just do what I asked. There was silence on the other end. Fine, but you call me again today. Promise? I promise. I love you, Mom. I love you too, honey. Ivy hung up and sank into the couch. William sat down beside her. She's okay? For now, but I don't know for how long. William grabbed his own phone. I'm going to hire private security to watch her house. Ivy looked at him, surprised. You'd do that? Of course. I'm not going to let anything happen to your family. For the first time in days, Ivy felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she wasn't as alone as she thought. The rest of the day passed in a blur of phone calls, searches, and frustrating attempts to track the hackers. Ivy barely ate or drank anything. She was obsessed with finding a loophole, anything she could use against them. William kept trying to get her to rest, but she refused. I can't stop now. They're winning. Ivy, you're going to burn yourself out. Better me than my mom. Around 11 at night, Ivy's phone rang again. It was a local number from Portland. She answered carefully. Hello? Miss Cooper? This is the Portland Police Department. We have a situation at the Sweet Ivy Cafe. Can you come down here? Ivy's heart dropped. What happened? There's been a break-in. It's best if you come and see for yourself. Ivy and William rushed to the car. The ride to the cafe was silent and tense. Ivy's stomach was in knots, imagining the worst. When they arrived, 2 police cars were parked out front. The window, which had already been broken before, was now completely shattered. The door had been torn off its hinges. Ivy jumped out of the car and ran, but an officer stopped her. Ma'am, please don't go in yet. That's my cafe. Let me in. The officer looked at his partner, who nodded. Ivy walked in, and what she saw made her fall to her knees. Everything was destroyed. Tables were broken, chairs thrown around. The glass counter was in pieces. The coffee machine was dented, as if someone had hit it with a baseball bat. The ovens were wide open, with spoiled food scattered everywhere. But the worst was on the walls. Spray painted in red were the words screaming, "Ghost key, you will be erased." Ivy covered her mouth, trying to hold back her sobs. That place was everything to her. Her dream. Her independence. And now it was destroyed. William walked in behind her and was stunned by the scene. My God! One of the officers came over. Miss Cooper, can you tell if anything is missing? Ivy looked around, her eyes blurred with tears. My computer, it was in the office. She ran to the back. The office door had been broken in. The computer was gone. So were the laptops she used for work. All that was left was a note on the desk. You should have stopped while you had the chance. Ivy picked up the note with trembling hands and walked back to the main area. William was waiting with the officer. They took everything, she said weakly. My computers, my backups, all the data. The officer took notes. We'll file a full report. If you remember anything else, you can give us a call. After the police left, Ivy stood in the middle of the wreckage, looking around like she couldn't process what she was seeing. William approached her gently. "Ivy," she let out a bitter laugh. "You know what's funny? I thought I could have a normal life. Coffee, cakes, happy customers. What a fool I was." "You're not a fool. You just wanted to live." Ivy turned to him, tears now running freely. "And look where it got me. Everything I worked for, destroyed. And the worst part? They're not done. They won't stop until they completely break me." William held her shoulders. "Then don't let them break you. Fight back." "How? They've got everything. My data, my equipment. I have nothing left." "You have you," he said firmly. "You have your intelligence, your courage, your ability to do the impossible. They may have destroyed your cafe, but they didn't destroy you." Ivy broke down, finally letting all the fear and anger out. "I'm so scared, William, so scared." He pulled her into a tight hug. "I know, but you're not alone. I'm here, and we're going to face this together." Ivy clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that was falling apart. They stayed that way for a long time, in silence, in the middle of the ruined cafe. Finally, Ivy pulled away, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "They want to see me broken? Then I'll show them what happens when you mess with the wrong person." William smiled, seeing the fire return to her eyes. "That's the Ivy I know. I'm done running. I'm going after them. And when I find who did this, they'll regret it. And I'll be right beside you every step of the way." Ivy looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Not as the billionaire CEO, not as the demanding customer who showed up every day, but as someone who truly cared. Someone willing to risk everything for her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "Why are you risking so much for me?" William held her face in both hands, his eyes filled with emotion. "Because you're the most amazing person I've ever met. Because you make me want to be better. And because I think I'm falling in love with you." Ivy felt her heart race. Before she could think, before she could protect herself with a joke or sarcasm, she pulled him in and kissed him. It was a desperate kiss, full of fear and hope, of anger and passion. A kiss that said everything words couldn't. When they pulled away, both were breathless. Ivy rested her forehead against his. "I think I'm falling in love with you too, and that scares me more than any hacker." William smiled. "Then let's be scared together." The next 4 days were intense. Ivy practically moved into William's penthouse, turning his office into a command center. The desk was covered with papers, 3 laptops running at once, wires everywhere. It looked more like a war room than an executive's office. William brought coffee every 2 hours. Ivy barely slept. When he insisted that she rest, she'd say, "I'll rest when those hackers are behind bars. Until then, coffee and determination are my best friends." She combed through every TechNexus file, every suspicious transaction, every employee who'd been fired in the last 5 years. She cross-referenced that with the attacks, looking for patterns, anything that might lead to the person in charge. On the 3rd day, at 3 a.m, Ivy shouted, "Got it!" William woke up from the couch where he'd dozed off and rushed over to her. "What? What did you find?" Ivy pointed to the screen, her eyes red from exhaustion but lit up with excitement. "The leader. I know who it is." On the screen was a woman's profile. Dark hair, intense eyes, serious expression. The name underneath read Lorena Mitchell. "Lorena?" William frowned. "I remember her. She used to be a programmer here. Years ago." "Not just a programmer. She was head of cybersecurity, one of the best you ever had." William pulled up a chair, trying to recall. "She was fired, wasn't she?" Ivy nodded, scanning the files. "Fired 3 years ago. But not for incompetence. She was accused of trying to sell company data to competitors. It was never proven, but you fired her anyway." William ran a hand through his hair, vaguely remembering the case. Gregory was the one who brought the accusations. He said he had evidence. "Evidence that never showed up," Ivy added. "Lorena was publicly humiliated, lost her reputation, couldn't get another job in the field. All based on accusations that may have been false. So now she wants revenge. Not just revenge, she wants to destroy everything. The company, you, anyone in her way." Ivy kept digging. She found records showing that Lorena had built her own hacker team. Brilliant people, ex-employees from various tech companies, all with personal grudges. A digital army fueled by resentment. "She planned this for years," Ivy murmured. "She recruited Gregory, probably offered him a piece of the company after it all fell apart. convinced Daniel Harrington to help too. This is a full-blown conspiracy. William stared at the data, stunned. How did we not see this before? Because she's good. Really good. As good as I am. Ivy took a deep breath. She knew what she had to do now. I'm going to challenge her. Directly. How? I'll hack into her system, leave a message only she'll understand, force her to answer. William hesitated. What if it's a trap? It probably is, but it's the only way to end this. Ivy spent the next few hours preparing the attack. She set up defenses, digital escape routes, reverse traps. When everything was ready, she looked at William. If this goes wrong and I lose everything again, don't let them get to you too. He took her hand. It won't go wrong. You're the best at this. Ivy gave a tired smile. We're about to find out. She typed the final command and broke into Lorena's server. It felt like stepping into a digital fortress. Layer after layer of protection, but Ivy knew every trick because she would have used the same ones. It took 15 minutes to reach the core. And there, she left her message. Hello Lorena, Ghost Key here. Time to finish this. The reply came in seconds. You're brave, or very foolish, probably both. Ivy typed back, you destroyed my cafe, threatened my family, now it's personal. It was always personal, ever since you chose to help the man who ruined my life. He didn't ruin anything. You were accused of betrayal. False accusations. Gregory lied, and William believed him without question. He threw me away like garbage. Ivy looked at William, who was reading the messages over her shoulder. He was pale. If the accusations were false, why didn't you prove your innocence? Ivy typed, because no one wanted to listen. They'd rather believe the corrupt vice president than me. So I decided, if they were going to treat me like a criminal, I'd be the best one they'd ever seen. Ivy took a breath. She understood Lorena's pain. She understood the anger that came from being wronged. But that didn't justify what she'd done. You have every right to be angry, but destroying innocent lives won't fix what they did to you. Innocent? No one there is innocent. Everyone knew. Everyone stayed quiet. And me? What did I do to you? Why did you destroy my cafe? There was a pause. Then, you picked the wrong side. That made you my enemy. Ivy felt the anger rising. Then let's settle this, you and me. Right now. With pleasure. What followed was a digital battle like William had never seen. Two brilliant minds, each trying to outmaneuver the other. Code flew across the screens, systems were hacked and defended within seconds. Ivy was sweating, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Lorena was better than she'd expected. Every move Ivy made, Lorena countered. It was like playing chess at full speed. I can't do it, Ivy muttered, frustrated. She's always one step ahead. William knelt beside the chair. Remember the first day? When you walked into TechNexus with that pizza and saved billions? You were alone, no equipment, no preparation, and you still pulled it off. Because you're amazing. Ivy looked at him, her eyes shining. You're right, I did it that day because I wasn't afraid to risk everything. She turned back to the computer with renewed determination. She stopped playing defense. Instead, she attacked all at once. She launched 50 simultaneous intrusions, overloading Lorena's system. What are you doing? William asked, alarmed. Betting everything on one move. The risk was enormous. If she failed, Lorena would have full access to both Ivy's and William's systems. But if it worked, the screens flickered, once, twice, then turned green. Ivy had won. Messages started popping up. IP addresses, locations, the names of Lorena's entire team. Ivy had not only defeated the leader, she had exposed the whole operation. I did it, she whispered in disbelief. I did it. William pulled her into a tight hug, laughing with relief. I knew you could do it. Ivy copied all the data and immediately sent it to the police, along with every piece of evidence she had gathered. 15 minutes later, they got a call confirming that units were on their way to Lorena's location. Ivy and William went along, following the police cars to an abandoned building on the outskirts of Portland. It was an old warehouse, isolated, perfect for hiding an operation like that. The police stormed the place, weapons drawn. Ivy and William waited outside, tense. 10 minutes later, an officer came out, shaking his head. It's empty. Whoever was here left not long ago. Some of the equipment is still warm. Ivy felt her stomach drop. She got away. Lorena got away. William placed a hand on her shoulder. But you got the evidence. Her team is going to jail. She can't keep doing this. Ivy wanted to believe that. but something inside her said it wasn't over yet. As they got back to the car, both their phones buzzed at the same time. A message from the same number. Ivy opened it with trembling hands. She read it out loud. "You won this battle, but the war is far from over. I'll be back, and when I return, you'll lose everything. That's a promise." The next 5 days were filled with quiet anxiety. Ivy and William went back to their routines, but they were always looking over their shoulders, waiting for Lorena to make good on her threat. Ivy's mother stayed in Chicago with private security. TechNexus reinforced all its systems, and Ivy started planning the rebuild of Sweet Ivy. But on the 5th day, everything changed. William was in a meeting when he got the call. Ivy was in the penthouse making notes for the new layout of the cafe when he burst through the door, face glowing. "They got her!" he shouted. Ivy dropped her notebook. "Got who?" "The police caught her, and the whole team." Ivy jumped to her feet. "How? Where?" William stepped closer, still taking it all in. It was the FBI. They tracked her near the Canadian border, the Thayer. And they found something else. She was with Daniel Harrington the whole time. The board member who vanished? Exactly. Turns out Daniel wasn't hiding by choice. He was running from Lorena. Ivy frowned, confused. Running? I thought he was working with her. William sat on the couch and explained everything the FBI had told him. At first, yes. Lorena convinced Daniel to help her. She promised they'd take down the company and split the money. But when Gregory got caught, Daniel panicked. He wanted out, and Lorena didn't like that. What did she do? She threatened him and his entire family, said if he spoke up, she'd destroy them all. Daniel was terrified. He quit and fled to Mexico with his wife and kids. Ivy shook her head, stunned by Lorena's coldness. And the FBI found him? They found both of them. Daniel was hiding in a small town near Guadalajara. When he heard Lorena had been caught trying to cross the border, he turned himself in. Told them everything, gave them evidence, recordings, the whole thing. So it's really over? For real this time? William smiled, taking her hands in his. It's over. Lorena, Gregory, Daniel, and 8 more members of her team, all arrested. They'll be charged with hacking, extortion, threats, property damage. They'll be in prison for years. Ivy felt her knees give out and sank into the couch beside William, tears of relief streaming down her face. I can't believe it. It's really over. William pulled her into a tight embrace. You did it. You saved the company again, and this time for good. Ivy laughed through her tears. We did it. Together. They stayed like that for a long time, just enjoying the feeling of finally being safe. That night, for the first time in weeks, Ivy slept without nightmares. The days that followed were strangely normal. Ivy started renovating Sweet Ivy with the insurance money. William went back to focusing fully on TechNexus, now free from threats. And the two of them began seeing each other not just as crisis partners, but as a real couple. Which wasn't easy. On their first try at a romantic dinner, William picked an expensive French restaurant. Ivy showed up in jeans and a t-shirt, while everyone else around them was dressed to the nines. You didn't tell me this place was fancy, she whispered, embarrassed. I thought the name made it obvious. Le Bernardin. To me, that could have been a pizza place. I don't speak French. They laughed so much, the waiter had to ask them to lower their voices. On the second attempt, Ivy invited William to bake cakes in her kitchen. He somehow managed to burn water. How do you burn water? Ivy asked, staring at the scorched pot in disbelief. I don't know. I just turned away for a second and came back to flames. William, you're the CEO of a tech company and you can't boil water. That's disturbing. I admit cooking's not really my thing. Not even a little bit. It's non-existent. But despite the disasters, they had fun. Ivy found out William had a dry sense of humor that matched her sarcasm perfectly. And William discovered that Ivy sang 80 songs while baking. Completely off-key. Everything was going well until the press found out about the relationship. The Portland Business Journal headline read, Billionaire CEO dating former delivery girl who hacked company. Ivy saw the news and rolled her eyes. Great, now I'm officially the former delivery girl. Like that's the only thing I've ever done in life. William was more concerned. My investors won't stop calling. Let me guess, they're not thrilled. That would be a huge understatement. The following week, William had to attend a board meeting. The main investors were there, all wearing suits more expensive than Ivy's car. Thomas Bradley, the biggest individual investor, got straight to the point. William, we need to talk about your personal life. My personal life isn't your concern. It is when it affects the company's image. You're dating a woman who hacked our systems, who made headlines all over the country as a hacker. That's not good for business. William crossed his arms. She hacked us to save us. Twice. If it weren't for her, you would have lost billions. Another investor, Patricia Holmes, leaned forward. We understand that, but public perception is different. She's seen as an opportunist, a pizza delivery girl who got lucky and is now taking advantage of you. William felt his anger rise. Ivy is not an opportunist. She's the most honest and brave person I've ever met. Thomas sighed. William, be reasonable. You could be with anyone. Someone from our world, with the right background. Someone who doesn't bring this kind of baggage. Baggage? William stood, his voice sharp. You're calling the woman who saved this company baggage? We're saying she's not suitable for someone in your position. William looked around the room. He saw the investors' faces, all waiting for him to fold, to choose money and reputation over his heart. And he made his decision. Then you'll have to get used to it, because I choose Ivy. And if that's a problem for you, the door's open. Sell your shares and find another place to invest. The room fell silent. Thomas's eyes widened. You're giving us an ultimatum? I'm making it clear where my priorities are. Ivy stays. If you can't live with that, you leave. Simple as that. Patricia stood up, clearly upset. You're making a mistake, William. Maybe, but it's mine to make. Thomas shook his head, disappointed. You'll regret this. I doubt it. William left the meeting with his head held high, though his heart was racing. He knew he'd just taken a big risk. Some investors might actually leave. The stock might drop. But he didn't care. When he got back to the penthouse, Ivy was on the couch watching an old movie. She looked up and could tell right away something had happened. What is it? William sat beside her and took her hands. I had a meeting with the investors. Ivy's stomach turned. And? They wanted me to choose between you and the company's image. Ivy closed her eyes. William, I understand I chose you. She opened her eyes, stunned. What? I told them you stay, and if they don't like it, they can take their money somewhere else. Ivy was speechless. You did this? You really did this? I did. And I don't regret it for a second. Tears welled up in Ivy's eyes. You're crazy. Completely crazy. Probably. You could lose investors, money, your reputation. I could, but I can't lose you. Ivy pulled him into a desperate kiss full of gratitude and love. When they pulled apart, she was smiling and crying at the same time. No one's ever done anything like this for me. Then it's about time someone did. Ivy let out a tearful laugh. Your investors must think you've lost your mind. Let them think whatever they want. I know what matters. And what's that? William held her face in both hands. You, us, this? That's all that matters. Ivy rested her forehead against his. You know you're stuck with me now, right? After a declaration like that, there's no going back. I was counting on it. They laughed together, curled up on the couch, while the movie played forgotten on the TV. Outside, the city lights glowed through the night. And for the first time in a long time, Ivy felt like she was exactly where she belonged. It didn't matter what the investors thought. It didn't matter what the press said. It didn't matter whether she used to be a pizza delivery girl or a legendary hacker. What mattered was that moment. That man. That love that had bloomed in the middle of chaos and had become the most real thing in her life. And for the first time, Ivy wasn't afraid of the future. Because she knew that no matter what came next, she wouldn't be facing it alone. 6 months passed like a movie in fast forward. Sweet Ivy was rebuilt, but this time Ivy had learned from her mistakes. She installed security cameras, a state-of-the-art alarm system, which, ironically, William insisted on paying for, and even hired 2 employees to help her. The cafe reopened with an all-day celebration. Half the neighborhood showed up, along with curious reporters who wanted to meet the famous hacker-turned-baker. Ivy hated the attention, but she loved seeing her dream come alive again. And this time, the cafe was even more popular. Customers came from all over Portland just to say they'd had coffee at the place where the legendary Ghost Key worked. Ivy thought it was silly, but she didn't complain about the business. Mr. Thompson came back, still asking to run a tab. Thompson, you have a platinum credit card. I saw it in your wallet last week, he chuckled, slightly embarrassed. But it's more fun when you scold me. Oh, so I'm your personal entertainment now? Exactly. Worth every penny I don't spend. Ivy rolled her eyes but smiled. She had missed these silly exchanges. William stopped by the cafe almost every day, and now he didn't have to pretend it was just for the coffee. He kissed Ivy in front of everyone, earning sighs from older customers and giggles from the younger ones. You two are the most unlikely couple I've ever seen, one regular customer said. Ivy replied, while making a cappuccino. Unlikely is the perfect word. He didn't even know how to make toast when we met. Still don't, William admitted, sitting at the counter. It's true. Yesterday he tried to make scrambled eggs and ended up with something that looked like yellow rubber. In my defense, the online instructions weren't very clear. William, it was scrambled eggs. There are no instructions. You just stir. The customers around them laughed. This fun back and forth was what made Sweet Ivy more than just a cafe. It was a slice of real life. No filters, no perfection. One Friday night, Ivy organized a special party. It was the 6-month anniversary of the reopening, and she had invited all the regulars, neighbors, a few TechNexus employees she had gotten to know, and even the private investigator who had helped track down Lorena. The cafe was packed. Colorful lights decorated the ceiling. A cheerful playlist played in the background, and Ivy had prepared a huge table filled with sweet and savory treats. Everything was perfect. William arrived a bit later, straight from a meeting. Ivy was serving cake when she saw him walk in. He looked nervous, which was strange. William was never nervous. Are you okay? She asked, walking over. I'm fine. I just need to say something. Now? In the middle of the party? Now. Before Ivy could say anything, William climbed onto a chair, getting everyone's attention. Folks, can I have your attention for a minute? The music was turned down. Conversations stopped. Everyone looked at him, curious. Ivy felt her heart race. What are you doing? She whispered. William stepped down from the chair and stood in front of her, taking her hands. Ivy Cooper, a year ago, you walked into my company with a cold pizza and completely changed my life. You saved my business, made me laugh when I was at rock bottom, and showed me there's life beyond spreadsheets and meetings. You're brave, smart, funny, and you make the best cakes I've ever tasted. Ivy felt tears begin to form. The cafe was completely silent. William got down on one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. When he opened it, there was a simple but beautiful ring with a modest diamond that sparkled under the colorful lights. Ivy, will you marry me? The cafe exploded in cheers and applause. Ivy stood still, speechless, trying to process what was happening. Her mind felt frozen. You're proposing to me? She finally managed to say. I am. In my cafe? In front of everyone? I thought you might like the attention. Ivy let out a nervous laugh. Do you know me that little? William smiled. So is that a no? Ivy looked at him, still kneeling, holding the ring with that hopeful look on his face. She looked around and saw customers waiting eagerly, some already recording with their phones. It was all so public, so exposed, everything she would normally hate, but it was also sincere, real, and entirely William. Let me think, she said, folding her arms playfully. Marry a billionaire who can't cook, has annoying investors, and will probably drag me to fancy events where I'll feel completely out of place. Ivy, William was starting to look nervous. On the other hand, she went on, now smiling, you make decent coffee, you make me laugh even on the worst days, and you stood up for us against everyone. So, I guess the answer is yes. The cafe exploded again. William stood up, slipped the ring on her finger, and kissed her as everyone clapped, shouted, and a few even cried. When they pulled apart, Ivy whispered, but if you throw a big fancy wedding, I'll kill you. Too late, I already booked the venue. William. Kidding, mostly. The months that followed were a chaotic mix of wedding planning and trying to keep life normal. Ivy wanted something simple. William agreed. But his idea of simple included 300 guests and a venue that looked like a castle. This isn't simple, Ivy protested the first time she saw the place. It's relatively simple. I cut the guest list from 500 to 300. I know 15 people. Now you know 300. In the end, they reached a compromise. The wedding would be elegant but relaxed. It would have the luxury William wanted to provide, but also the simplicity and humor Ivy brought to everything. The big day arrived on a sunny spring afternoon. The venue was beautiful, decorated with white flowers and gold accents. The guests were a strange but charming mix of executives in suits and neighborhood folks in their Sunday best. Ivy wore a simple white lace dress, her hair down in soft waves, no giant veil or 3-meter-long train. William nearly cried when he saw her walk in. The ceremony was short and sweet. When it was time for the vows, Ivy improvised. "William, when you first walked into my cafe, I thought you were just another grumpy customer. I never imagined the guy who ordered black coffee every day would become the most important person in my life. You taught me that it's possible to trust again, to love again, and that even when everything is falling apart, we can rebuild. I promise to love you, to annoy you with my jokes, and try not to laugh when you burn more food." The guests laughed. William wiped away a tear, smiling. "Ivy, you literally walked into my life with a pizza. And since then, nothing's been the same. You've saved me in more ways than you can imagine. You saved me from hackers, from loneliness, from a colorless life. I promise to stand by your side always, support your dreams, and learn to cook. Or at least try." "Please don't try," Ivy whispered, making everyone laugh again. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the kiss was met with thunderous applause. The reception was unforgettable. The food was top tier, thanks to Portland's best caterer, but Ivy had insisted on a special dessert table from Sweet Ivy. The wedding cake had 4 tiers, each a different flavor that she had made herself. During the first dance, William held Ivy close, dancing clumsily since neither of them knew how to waltz. "We're terrible at this," Ivy said, laughing. "Awful, but I'm happy." "Me too." Ivy rested her head on his shoulder, looking around. She saw her mother chatting excitedly with TechNexus investors. She saw Mr. Thompson eating cake like there was no tomorrow. She saw customers from the cafe taking pictures with suit-wearing executives. It was a chaotic mix of 2 worlds that were never meant to meet, but somehow it all worked perfectly together. "What are you thinking about?" William asked. Ivy smiled and whispered in his ear, "I'm thinking how funny life is, and to think it all started with a cold pizza and some hackers." William laughed and kissed her forehead. "Best origin story ever." "Absolutely, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It was way too stressful." "Was it worth it?" Ivy looked into his eyes, seeing all the love, all the connection they had built together. Every second. And as they kept dancing, surrounded by friends, family, and an unlikely mix of people from completely different worlds, Ivy knew she had found exactly where she belonged. Not in code or coffee shops, not in luxury or simplicity, but right there, in the arms of the man who'd walked into her life at the most chaotic moment and stayed, for good. What did you think of Ivy and William's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What's your score?
If this journey of resilience and turning pain into power resonated with your heart, please support Healing Stories. Subscribe. Help us build a sanctuary of strength by subscribing to the channel. Share the hope. Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of recovery and justice. Join the conversation. Your comments and engagement are part of the healing process. Let us know your thoughts below. Your support allows us to continue sharing powerful narratives of overcoming trauma and finding peace. Subscribe to Healing Stories and be part of the change.